Yeah, sure. It's been a little bit of a light week for news, but there was a state of gameplay reveal for Hogwarts Legacy that I think was just released yesterday.
I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, looks right. What are your thoughts on this?
It's like,
So I think all
yeah,
of us have like we all have like some history with Harry Potter, right? We grew up in the last 20 years, I think, the last 30 years, give or take. And so I've read all the books, I've seen all the movies. I
yeah.
think that J.K. Rowling needs to be shot into the sun, but this game isn't made by her. But then there's also the fact where there's the game. So I don't know. FG, do you have anything to say? Like just kind of off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's probably how do I succinctly put this? It is probably a game that I really wish I could play without my conscience yelling at me. But because my conscience is yelling at me, I will not, because Rowling yes, she is not directly involved with the game, but she still gets money for it. And that's just I
So,
in no good conscience can I support that and promote that. Like,
so it's not even just a won't stream it, but won't play it, won't buy it kind of thing for you.
yeah, I think so. I think so. As much as cool as it looks, and as cool as it would be to like run around the world and explore, it's like it would just feel tainted, and I would just constantly think about it, and definitely don't want to promote it on my stream because I have members of my community who are trans, and that would feel like a freaking insult to them. Like I would feel like I would be insulting them by promoting something that is, I know, not directly connected, but it is connected enough that she's going to make lots and lots of money from it, and I don't want to support that.
So first things first is I wanted to see if I could figure out what her cut from royalties were. So I did a little Google search, and I typed in "is J.K. Rowling," and the first thing that popped up in Google
Oh,
search
God.
results is
Of
dead,
course.
still alive, died of COVID. The first three that popped up.
Oh my God.
So that, I guess, shadows public perception, but I don't have an exact number here, but yes, she will be receiving royalties. I think the important thing that I want to say first here is this game looks really pretty. It looks really nice. Gameplay looks quite smooth for an unfinished game. Like, there's definitely some hitching in the gameplay itself. As a game in that universe, it looks like a good one of those. It kind of reminds me of when I was initially seeing gameplay of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, going, oh, that looks like a good Star Wars-y thing. And this looks like a good Hogwarts-y thing.
Yep.
Now, I just want to echo everything that FG just said, kind of about community and the person who created Harry Potter. But I just want to throw out a bit of a devil's advocate argument here for a second. Developers get jobs if games sell, right? And yes, a lot of the devs who are making this game are on salary. They're not going to get huge extra bonuses if the game sells super well. But these are people who also don't agree with J.K. Rowling working on this game. And J.K. Rowling is a horrible person. That's fair to say. But a lot of horrible people worked at Blizzard Entertainment and still work at Blizzard Entertainment. And there's a lot of people streaming World of Warcraft, and there's a lot of people streaming Diablo. There's a lot of people streaming StarCraft. There's a lot of people streaming Overwatch. And while I condemn a lot of things that J.K. Rowling has said in the past, and yes, she is getting royalties from this, she doesn't have any say over what is happening in this game. She's just receiving royalties. Now, this brings up another topic on like the subject matter that this game itself is tackling, which maybe we can talk about in a second. But when it comes to whether or not you should support a game, just remember that it's up to you to pick your battles. And I don't know if this is the best hill to die on necessarily.
No, I agree. I agree. It's just like this is
Like,
is
if anything, if you're gonna stream this, stream it and also fundraise for Trevor Project. Like, do something good with it and embarrass the creators. Like,
that's exactly that is literally the only way that I could see myself. I was actually going to say that, like, as an interjection. Literally the only way I could see myself actually playing this game on stream would be while doing a big fat fundraiser for charities that support trans people. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I haven't 100% decided, but like 95% of my heart just says I just won't be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely agree with that. Like, it's there. If I were to play this game, which it doesn't really look like the sort of thing I would play anyway, so I kind of have like the easy argument here. But if I were to play this game, there would definitely be like that background feeling of, ew, gross, which is the same feeling I would get if I read the books again, or if I watched one of those movies again. Maybe not so much with like the first two movies, because those are just like nostalgia fests for me at this point. But like, it's
and don't get me
it's
wrong,
a weird thing. It's difficult.
I feel I also feel that conflict that you mentioned. I feel really bad for the people that actually worked on this game, and they put their heart blood into this, and they deserve also recognition for what they've done. But definitely, because it's a cool thing to like actually make a video game. It's a cool thing to get something finally with modern technology in this universe, but even with all of that, this is as I said, it's a personal thing. I would just have that noise, that voice in the back of my brain just going like, ew, no, ew.
There is one other thing that's worth mentioning is, to my knowledge, this game has been in development longer than this scandal.
Yes. So that's actually what I was going to interject and say is, like, this game is everything that I wanted out of the Hogwarts world, like, my entire life. I grew up with Harry Potter. It's a really, really important story to me and, like, my development as a kid. And so, like,
same.
Sure, there's plenty of different opinions going around, like death of the author, vice versa, but like it's sort of my memories and my feelings with the story are disconnected from J.K. Rowling, and I can kind of hold on to that. And when Hogwarts Legacy was first leaked, I was trying to find the date it was leaked, but it was a long time ago.
It was like at a mall, wasn't it? It was like a walk-in QA thing where you signed an NDA. It was it was like 2016 or 2017, right? It was leaked, and I was so excited.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
I was so excited, like, yes, I cannot wait. And now I'm sitting here like, I see both sides of the argument, and I don't have an answer.
It looks like 2018 was when that leak happened. Open world Harry Potter game leaked. Yeah, it was a public QA thing where you could just sign an NDA and play a video game, but it was very obviously a Harry Potter game. It's kind of hard to hide that a Harry Potter game's a Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
So,
I
guess that was not as long ago as I thought, but
that's still kind of a long time. That's like 4 years.
4 years
kind
ago.
Of a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, this game's definitely been in development. If I had to guess, probably like 6 years, at least. So this game's been in development for a while. Honestly, and this is just me. I pick my battles, right? And I think that's up to the individual at this point. Like, pick your battles, and if it makes you feel bad, or if you think that take is going to impact your experience with a thing, just don't play it. Wait until it's on sale and super cheap, and give them less royalties. Buy it in a humble bundle or something. Like, just like, you don't have to play things at launch and give them the most amount of money as well.
I should also mention, I won't think badly of people that do decide to play it. right? It's their choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, this is a very similar thing to like, should you stream World of Warcraft? Well, a lot of bad people worked on World of Warcraft that did a lot of bad things. But a lot of good people are still working there trying to get a paycheck. So
Yeah.
I think this goes back to the buying an organic tomato thing.
always buy the organic tomato. Grow your own. Damn it.
I feel like if you've seen The Good Place, you might get the reference, but otherwise it's like, what?
But do we want to talk about the story of this game a little bit, or should we just kind of like?
Yeah, we
people
can
watch
mention
the
it at least because it's
Yeah.
so it has actually that's why it's called Hogwarts Legacy and not like Harry Potter Hogwarts Years or something like that, because it has incidentally nothing to do with Harry Potter the character or the Wizarding Walls or anything like that, because it is set at the end of the 19th century, in the 1800s, and you're a student that joins Hogwarts late. I think you're in your 5th year, so you attend classes, but you also have like catch up, like study sessions, basically just mini games.
school.
Yeah, it's like yeah, you say that to totally digress. You say that, but Bully was really good. And that was
I
school
would play
too.
another bully. I would play another bully.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, so you go there,
We're
so you
never
have
gonna
your normal
get another bully.
classes, but you also have like these one-on-one coaching sessions where you do like mini games and you can excel at things and get better and that sort of stuff. And then I don't quite know how you go from that to now there is a goblin rebellion, but then basically the major plot is that there's a goblin rebellion and you have to fight against the goblins.
Which on its so something that I tell my chat all the time is one of the things that I do as part of my work is I overthink things for a living. And I think that so I can ramble for hours and hours and hours about the way Dwarf Fortress generates racism and the way that different character archetypes act depending on where they were raised culturally and how they act naturally. And whether or not we should all hate elves because elves are cannibals, but that's their religious culture and they only do it after battle. And humans did that in our history. So should we hate humans should we hate everybody from New Zealand because like they had cannibals that lived there previously? No. And so to me, it kind of comes down to how do you handle this subject matter? Because I think it's a pretty commonly known fact that fantasy worlds like Tolkien worlds, D&D as an example, these archetypes were created as human equivalents for what we perceive as acceptable racism to have human stories in a fantasy world. These archetypes are often attributed directly to a particular culture in human society, but dressed up so that it's not immediately recognizable, and it feels fantastical. But when you read into the writing, these characters often end up being written as particular social or racial archetypes. In Harry Potter specifically, the goblins are bankers, and they're very visually similar to the early D&D goblins, which are very much a anti-Semitic archetype. And I think for me, this isn't something that I can immediately look at in a game like this and judge it because I haven't played it. I don't know how, all we have is this 15-minute video that kind of frames this plot line, but I don't know how it's handled in the game itself. It could be terrible and horribly racist and be an unpleasant gameplay experience because of that, but maybe they go a bit more Dragon Age with it and it's actually quite interesting. So I think it falls down to the quality of the writing at that point.
Yeah, it does. And then because the problem is obviously not just like historically speaking, those stereotypes have existed in fantasy worlds and writing. It's also there is the precedent in Harry Potter itself with the house elves, and hey, we're like slaves, which are basically slaves, but it's okay because they like it. Which is a whole nother, like, giant, like, just problematic red flag.
Absolutely, but, like, because of that, like, am I defending J.K. Rowling's writing? Because of that, we also got, like, Dobby's storyline, right?
Yeah, of course.
Which is... there are things in wizard culture. God, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say this morning. There are things in wizard culture that are socially completely unacceptable in our world, but it's a fantasy world which allows you to have situations like that are crappy, that we recognize as, man, that is bad, and then you have a writing opportunity to have interesting storylines with that. And Dobby is a kind of something that people still talk about because it is a really good example of interesting writing using problematic themes. Is it handled perfectly? No, absolutely not. I don't think J.K. Rowling's writing is
It's not very good, no.
It's not very good. Like, there is a lot of problems with that. But it was when I was reading that book, I was a little kid. And for me, that was... Like, we mentioned earlier in this discussion that, like, I think Harry Potter impacted a lot of us in our lives. And for me, that was, like, one of my first times really encountering writing like that, talking about racism in kind of a veiled way, and then realizing that later, or in this case, slavery, realizing that later, and then seeing how it was handled, like, that's interesting writing. That is... taking a crappy stereotype and doing something kind of neat with it. And I think that this game has the capability and the potential to do that.
True, maybe. Yes. Yeah. It's just so far the precedences from the Harry Potter world are not there. Because remember, House Slytherin is basically a house because this is the house for racists. Like, this
is the house for white supremacists.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Gryffindor is the house for centrists. And then Hufflepuff is like
the rest.
I don't know, everybody else.
Yeah.
Wait, but what about Ravenclaw?
That's where the nerds are. Duh.
They live in the library, so they never.
Yeah,
I did actually forget about Ravenclaw.
I mean, the thing is, and I agree with you here. It can potentially be a very sensitive topic matter, but I think there is a chance for the game to shine because the writing is not Rowling, because it's different writers, right?
Sorry, I felt like I was almost interrupting you, but one little anecdote I just want to just drop in here is because they're under the shadow of J.K. Rowling, I want to see them overcompensate. But Jess, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I started thinking about this while you two were talking, and as a quick aside to what I was going to say, I actually really appreciate being here in the recording with you both because I think you both are very well spoken and quite eloquent with explaining your points of view, and it's just interesting to sit here, and I know this is just a vocal recording, but I'm like, nodding in the background. just listening. So while I was just listening to you both talk about this, I actually got started thinking about if this is Hogwarts in the 1800s, what are they? I guess I should back up even further. If J.K. Rowling is not really contributing to the development of this game, what are they using to create this atmosphere and this environment? What sources are they using? Are they using the books? Are they using some of the supplementary texts? Or are they just creating new aspects? Well, just themselves.
You have to remember how licensing works, right? Warner Brothers owns the rights to make Harry Potter content. Just like Disney owns the rights to make Star Wars content. So if you want to make a Star Wars video game, like I don't know what the exact process for this game was, but I can briefly kind of talk about licensing. If you want to make a Star Wars game, you go to Disney and you say, I want to make a Star Wars game. And then you give them a bunch of money and they give you the asset Bible or the creative Bible, which is basically, here are all of the Star Wars sound effects. Here are all of the assets that you're allowed to use from movies and exact details on how to model them. Here, or stuff that they've already made in some cases. Here is all of the music and the rights to use the music from Star Wars. And here is all of the history and world building and everything that is currently canon. Go. And that's usually how licensing works, and I'm assuming this is a similar situation.
So
I just feel like it must be kind of difficult, though, because, I mean, I guess there's movies to go off of, but in the books, she doesn't really describe things very well. Like, she writes the story around the characters, but I have noticed in rereading in recent years that she just doesn't really build up the environment outside of the little bubble of the character. And so I do kind of wonder, like, how they are supplementing that.
At this point, I think the movies have fixed that problem to a degree. Like, looking at this gameplay, because I've just kind of got it running in the background with no sound on while we're talking. Looking at this gameplay, it looks like the movies. Like, there's definitely some environments that are, like,
they're
a little more
copy-pasted from
fantastical. But it does feel a lot like they've just marathoned all of the movies and the extended universe stuff, and we're just like, all right, that's our art direction. Go.
Yeah, I think so too. If you look through it, like, there's definitely some stuff. Like, I mean, like, they have some cameos from people that can have cameos, like the ghosts, because some of the ghosts have just been at Hogwarts since Hogwarts became Hogwarts, right?
Yeah, I saw Nearly Headless Nick. He looks just like in the movies. Well,
exactly.
Sort of,
Yeah. Exactly. So they've taken some stuff directly from there. And then I think they just kind of went with the same direction. I mean, it does look like, it does feel like everything, like, just kind of, like, when you look at it, it does feel like it is part of the extended universe.
Hogwarts has kind of a known quantity visually as well, and it's with everything that the movie has, I don't think it is that much of a stretch to just probably assume that Warner Brothers just kind of has this is all the color palettes, these are deleted scenes or sketches and imagery and storyboards that we use for these movies that didn't make it into the movies. Like, they probably have tons of reference material, so
true.
That would be
you'll have
my assumption of what they're probably going.
All the set designs and whatnot as well. Yeah.
So at the very least, they probably have like an architecture guidebook on like what things can look like. And like, let's think about the aesthetic of Harry Potter for a second here. It's late century castles, light steampunk, and magic, and like rusty old vehicles that shouldn't work properly. And aside from that, it's British / kind of Irish countryside with fantastical buildings sticking out of the side of cliff faces. Like, that's kind of the aesthetic of Harry Potter to a degree. Like, there's never really a point in Harry Potter where like suddenly they're in Africa, right? Like, they're I guess like there's like the Goblet of Fire sequences where you have people from other areas coming, but like generally it's pretty like late medieval fantasy steampunky Europe.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
This was a much longer bit than I was expecting.
we clearly had a lot to talk about and to say about it. So yeah, there's that.